Her polyphonic narrative tells the story of African sex workers in Europe in their own words. In Chika Unigwe's On Black Sisters Street, the action shifts between Nigeria and Belgium, between memory and reality, and between sorrow and hope. Winner of the Nigeria Prize for Literature, Unigwe has been hailed as one of the continent's most important authors writing today, and she joins us now as her book's released in French with a translation by Marguerite Capel. Chika, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Now, On Sisters Street brings together the experiences of four women in Antwerp, Belgium. Now, this is an insight into a world that very few white residents of European cities are even aware exists, I'd say. How did you learn about this world? What sort of research did you do to piece together a fictional but very authentic picture of these women's lives?
So I grew up in a very conservative Catholic home, and I remember being young and wanting to sing Salt and Pepper's Let's Talk About Sex, Baby. And I couldn't sing it. I couldn't use the word sex. I had to replace sex with bread. So I'll sing Let's Talk About Bread, Baby. And um, and then moving to Belgium and being sort of confronted with sex literally on the streets. Because if you get on a train in Belgium and you pass by Brussels North, no matter what time of day, you see sex workers behind display windows waiting for clients. And then when I heard that many of the African sex workers in Antwerp's red light district came from Nigeria, I was very curious. I wanted to know why anybody would travel that far to come and work the sex industry of Europe. And so I did go into the red light district. I did some research. I spoke to the Nigerian sex workers there because I knew nothing at all about this world. And so when you read the novel, the way Sisi feels in the book on that first day on the street were all the things that I felt when I went to do research. And so I was able to channel that my vulnerability and the way that I felt into Sisi's character.
Now, your novel recounts the migrant experience from Nigeria to Europe, as you mentioned, but the book also presents a real contrast between the dream of Europe and the reality of it. What would you say are the major cliches or untruths being peddled to those who think that Europe is automatically a solution?
Um, there are so many. I think one of the first that comes to mind is that it's very easy to make money in Europe. So there is, that you come into Europe and money sort of grows on trees, and there's money, on the roads that waiting for you to just pick up. And I think that this myth survives because many economic migrants go back and spend money that they might have borrowed, money that, they spent a long time gathering together. They go back to, say, Nigeria and spend it like it's very easy to come by. I remember the story of someone I knew in Belgium who worked in a chicken factory, who took out a bank loan to go to Nigeria and spend money like there was no tomorrow. It was important for him to sort of maintain this image of being very prosperous abroad.
There is a sense of desperation about life in Nigeria from some of the characters in the book. One of them, Sisi, says, I must escape. And another character speaks about the role that the immigrants play outside of their home countries. For example, he says that the National Health Service in the UK wouldn't function if it weren't for Nigerian nurses. And when you see that movement of people to Europe or to the States where you live now, does it make you fear for a brain drain in Nigeria?
No, not at all, because at the same moment as there is a brain drain, there is also a brain gain. I have so many friends who lived abroad, so many Nigerian friends who lived and worked abroad for many years and who have now gone back to Nigeria and are contributing to Nigeria. I could give you so many names of people that have, that came abroad, got their degrees, worked here for a bit and have gone back to Nigeria. So it's not a one-way traffic. But what happens is that there is also a group of people for whom coming abroad seems to be the only way. And those are some of the people that, like the women on Black Sister Street. These are people who feel that they have no other options than to than to come abroad. And then once they come abroad, it's very difficult for them to go back.
Now, speaking of the women who populate the novel, I was struck by how they're concerned about their appearances, and they have good reason to be because it's often directly related to their livelihoods, their marriage prospects, and as a result, their survival. And there are references to straightened hair or skin lightening products. And do you think that Western notion of female beauty is still prevalent? And what effect does that have?
Hmm. Again, I think that there's also been a movement in the past maybe 10 years where, you know, many Nigerian women of a certain class are more comfortable with, for example, natural hair. But one of the continuing legacies of colonization is that the Western notion of beauty is still very much the accepted notion. It's still very much the prevalent notion. We see that in beauty contests, even within Nigeria itself. Um, and we see that in the fact that skin lightening products continue to be one of the best sold beauty products, not just in Nigeria, but on the continent. A few years ago, there was a documentary on Ghana that talked about how or that touched on how pregnant women take pills so that their babies will come out lighter skinned than normal. So there is this notion still that proximity to lightness and maybe proximity to whiteness, brings you higher up the scale.
Now, while your work is recognised around the world and Nigerian literature more widely is celebrated and ever more disseminated, its cinema is still often pushed to the margins of international festivals and rarely distributed abroad. One event here in Paris aims to bring African films to new audiences. The Tigritude Festival is screening 126 films from the 1950s to the present day, an opportunity to discover a continent's worth of cinema. James Mulholland and Alexandra Renard went to check it out.
126 films from 40 African countries, screened over 2 months in central Paris. A trove of unreleased works, rare productions and must-see films are being screened at the Forum des Images until the 27th of February. Compiled by 2 filmmakers, the film cycle is called Tigritude, a response to Negritude, the Black Pride ideology conceived in Paris in the 1920s and 30s.
What's unique about Tigritude is that we screen films chronologically. Short films, feature films, documentaries, animation, art films.
The two met 25 years ago in Senegal, where they were each making their own film. Since that meeting, they've dreamed of creating an anthology of their favorite African films from 1956, when France's African colonies began to gain independence, to the present day.
Whether in Europe or on the African continent, these films circulate in limited networks or festivals, but are really dedicated to them.
I studied cinema in Paris. At the university, I was never shown a film from the African continent.
To compile their anthology, the pair watched more than 1,000 films over 3 years. A labour of love, to say the least.
As there are only 9 film libraries on the entire African continent, some films that we knew about have completely disappeared. Furthermore, the geopolitical and political situations on the continent have a huge influence on access and conservation.
Tigritude has a long journey planned as it travels across the world, with stops in Burkina Faso, Benin, Senegal, Kenya, Algeria and the United States.
Now, Chika, that festival is seeking to bring a pan-African vision of the arts to Europe, allow film fans to develop a more sophisticated understanding of African cinema. Now, you yourself were celebrated as one of the young African writers to watch, those living on the continent or in the diaspora, at the Hay Literary Festival in 2014, and Nigerian Nobel Prize winner Wole Soyinka established a pan-African prize for literature a few years back. What do you think of these initiatives? Would you say you're part of a pan-African artistic tradition?
The short answer is probably yes. Certainly in literature, the past 15 years has seen a huge movement of African writing sort of moving from the margins to the center. It's almost like every single year there's a new book by an African writer being published by a mainstream publisher in the US or in the UK, which are still the centers of publishing, of Anglophone publishing.
Now, finally, we asked you to flag up something on your cultural radar and something you've been enjoying recently. You pointed us in the direction of music, a track named Nwakioma. Tell us why we should be getting into this.
Nwakioma is really lovely to listen to. It's danceable, and it's by a young Nigerian artist. He's 29 years old. His name is Chika. I discovered Chika in 2016 when he was a Nigerian, not Nigerian Idol, but one of those shows, and he sang Roses, and his voice blew me away. So yes, listen to Chika, listen to Nwakioma, because Chika is good. He's wonderful, and Nwakioma is a very danceable track.
Definitely one to get us on the dance floor. Thank you very much, Chika Unigwe, for joining us today. We'll wrap up the show with that track. Otherwise, do remember to check out our website for more arts and culture. We're on social media too. There's more news coming up on France 24 just after this.
When the rubber steady coming, your name gonna touch it. Anything you do, you got to early. They go call you, won't come. If you won't come, when you never see you go there on the low. When you succeed, they go call you their own. Now because you done there for the throne, they call you, won't come. Sure you belong. When you never see you go there on the low. If you belong, when you succeed, they go call you their own. If you belong, now because you done there for the throne, they